Tune in for some happiness. Tune in for some fun. Tune in late at night or tune in the sun. This is TFM. Get ready to rock. From AM to PM. Come on. Let's talk.
TFM 95.4.
Let's talk.
Live on TFM and the TFM Facebook page. This is the live feed of TTV. Let's talk.
Hello and welcome to the Midday Update. These are the top headlines from our newsroom today. Complimentary COVID-19 coverage for Oman Air passengers. Muscat International Airport is back to life. Pakistan International Airline to add Karachi increase frequencies. PCR tests for visitors to Oman at border entry point. Muscat Batina home to 77% of COVID-19 cases in the Sultanate. Saudi resumes Umrah pilgrimage in Makkah after over 6-month halt due to coronavirus. UK Prime Minister warned of tipping point as government at risk of losing public in the north. France breaks single-day record with over 16,000 new COVID-19 cases. From IPL, Chennai beat Punjab by 10 wickets yesterday. From Premier League, Tottenham hammers Manchester United 6-1. These were the top headlines from our newsroom today. Let's see how the weather looks like in the Sultanate in our weather update.
I'm Antara Bose with your daily dose of weather, and we're standing outside the TFM studio in Al Khair. Now, we've been talking about hair care this week, and last time we spoke about hair hydration because dry hair is a very common summer problem. Now, if you're anyway trying to tackle dry hair, the first thing that you should ditch is your hair dryer. Instead, use a microfiber towel to dry your hair because this will also help you to reduce the frizz and absorb any excess water. After that, all you have to do is air dry as you go about your morning routine. That was our tip today. Now we'll step inside the studio and talk a little bit more about weather. Oman Meteorology and Public Authority for Civil Aviation have issued an alert indicating there will be a reduction in horizontal visibility during fog. Apart from this, the rest of the Sultanate will see clear skies with the possibility of late night to early morning low-level cloud formation or fog patches along the Oman Sea and the Arabian Sea coast. With that, let's take a look at what the weather is going to be like in the rest of the governorates. Muscat will be sunny with temperatures between 34 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius. Musandam will be sunny with temperatures between 39 to 28 degrees Celsius. North Al-Batana will be partly cloudy with temperatures between 34 to 27 degrees Celsius, while South Al-Batana will be sunny with temperatures between 36 to 24 degrees Celsius. Al-Buraimi will be sunny with temperatures between 40 to 28 degrees Celsius. Al-Dahira will be sunny with temperatures between 40 to 27 degrees Celsius. Al-Dakhla will also be sunny with temperatures between 39 to 26 degrees Celsius. North Al-Sharqiya will be sunny with temperatures between 39 to 26 degrees Celsius, while South Al-Sharqiya will also be sunny with temperatures between 34 to 25 degrees Celsius. Al-Wusta will be partly cloudy with temperatures between 36 to 23 degrees Celsius, and Dhofar will also be partly cloudy with temperatures between 30 to 20 degrees Celsius.
Oman's largest online supermarket now has no minimum order limit. From grocery to household items, Rafiq has everything that you want. Enjoy worry-free shopping with over 8,000 products to choose from and get it delivered straight to your doorstep. Rafiq, you order, we deliver.
Welcome back to TTV. You're watching Midday Update. Now, before we get into the details of the local stories for today, let's see how the COVID-19 situation in the Sultanate is today. The Ministry of Health official registered the announcement of 8 new deaths due to coronavirus in the country today. This has taken the total death cases in the country to 985. The Ministry of Health officials also extended their deepest condolences to the family of the deceased. In addition to that, the Ministry of Health officials also registered 544 new coronavirus cases in the Sultanate. This has taken the total cases in the country and have now touched 101,814, including 90,600 recoveries and 985 deaths, according to the officials. In the past 24 hours, 304 recoveries were also reported. The ministry urged everyone to adhere to social distancing instructions issued by the Supreme Committee and the Ministry of Health, as well as staying at home and not going out unless necessary.
These are the guidelines for travelers coming into the Sultanate. Only Omani citizens and residents with valid residences are allowed to enter the Sultanate without the need for prior approval. All visitors are required to have health insurance that covers the costs of treatment with COVID-19 for a period of 1 month. All arrivals shall download the Tarasood Plus application before arriving or on arrival in Oman. All arrivals shall have their temperatures measured, and those with COVID-19 symptoms shall be directed to the designated clinics for examination. Transit travelers are to abide by the instructions mentioned in this guide. All arrivals to Oman are subject to COVID-19 PCR tests and must pay the cost of services of OMR 25 and the following. Arrivals to Oman for a period from 1 to 7 days shall register in Tarasood Plus application. Arrivals to Oman for a period of 8 days or more are obligated to wear Tarasood Plus bracelet and quarantine for a period of 14 days. Aircraft crew and children from the age of 15 years and less are exempted from COVID-19 PCR tests. Foreigners coming to Oman must ensure the availability of adequate housing during the quarantine period. Aircraft crew are exempted from the 14 days quarantine and subject to the precautionary measures issued by the Ministry of Health. Physical distancing must be maintained at security points, luggage collection, and at customs inspections. Non-travelers may not enter the airport without a proper permit.
Now from a local desk, Oman Air, the Sultanate's national carrier, is providing its guests with complimentary COVID-19 coverage, which will cover expenses incurred by medical treatment or quarantine related to the coronavirus. The coverage, which is effective for travel from 1st October 2020 until 31st March 2021, is provided to all guests who purchase tickets on omanair.com, through the airline's call center, at Oman Air's offices, or through travel agents after 1st October 2020. Coverage begins on the day Oman Air returns to scheduled service, with flights connecting Muscat with 18 cities in 12 countries. Details about this complimentary COVID coverage program are available at omanair.com. The free coverage for guests of all ages is part of the airline's expensive efforts to ensure that its guests are safe at all times and fly confidently. Now, we all are familiar that the Muscat International Airport resumed its partial operation, last week on October 1st. And since then, a lot of people have been wondering about the procedures, how to go about it, and other additional information that is not very clear to the passengers right now. In regards to that, we have got Saif Abdullah Al Masroori, who's the manager hub operations at Oman Air, joining us today to give a bit of inside scoop and clear all the doubts that one has. Let's welcome Mr. Saif to the show. Thank you so much, Mr. Saif, for joining us today.
Good afternoon, and thanks for hosting me.
It's always a pleasure to have you, Mr. Saif. So first of all, congratulations on the partial opening of the Muscat International Airport. One of the news that everybody, all the citizens and residents in the country have been waiting to hear.
Thanks, Mariha. And of course, we are really very excited to see that we have resumed our operation, and of course, looking forward to welcome our guests.
How do you feel about the resumption of the partial operation of Muscat International Airport? Because I know that all the authorities, all the officials have been working day in and day out for resuming this operation.
Well, it went very well. We're organized, and it went exactly according to what we have planned. I mean, so it was really excellent.
Mr. Saif, talking about airports and about the aviation sector, we are still in the middle of the coronavirus situation across the world. And it is pretty obvious that due to coronavirus, aviation sector is one of the sectors that were truly affected. What do you have to say about it?
Well, Mariha, in short, what we can say, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the aviation industry, of course, due to travel restrictions and also passenger movements. I mean, no one is willing to travel. So what I can say, in short, this is the worst ever crisis encountered in the history of the aviation industry.
Well, I truly agree with you on that note because, going through the international news that a lot of aviation sectors, in fact, some of the airlines have actually stopped functioning even after, the flights were resumed because they couldn't cope up with the losses that they had to face. And talking about that, Mr. Saif, how long do you think the aviation sector, if not in general, but in the Sultanate, is going to take to revive?
Well, see, it is internationally. It is difficult even to say how long that will take. If we see the virus, how it is going, even we thought maybe in summer it will reduce, but still we can see the cases are still increasing. So saying that, and according to IATA studies, it may take long, which may be not less than 3 to 4 years to recover.
Right. Mr. Saif, I know, and we all have seen the preparations that the Civil Aviation Authority, the Royal Oman Police, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Transport and Communication, all the authorities have come together to prepare the Muscat International Airports and to prepare the readiness of passengers to fly smoothly and confidently. With all the readiness and preparation in place, how long do you think it will take for the Muscat International Airport to operate fully?
Well, see what I can say on this. Yes, it is really well prepared, the resuming of the operation, and it is done actually in a professional plan. So civil aviation planned it into phases, where we started the repatriation flights and the charter flights. Then the phase 2 was to resume the scheduled flight, which started on 1st of October. Based on what is going on now, of course, they'll do a study and see how it goes. Then we'll move to phase 2, which phase 3, that to increase number of flights. And then in phase 3, if things goes well, then we'll move to where we should go back to, let's say, normal operation. So it is divided into phases. Now we are in phase 2. It is going well. There'll be an evaluation out of this, and then we move on.
Well, that's actually a great news that we're already in phase 2 and phase 1. It means that phase 1 was successful, that we got to phase 2, and hopefully with all the efforts that have been put in place by authorities, phase 2 is going to go smooth too, with also passengers adhering to the rules and regulations that have been every now and then have been the Civil Aviation Authority, the Oman airports, Ministry of Health, they're constantly repeating and telling people so that the word can get to them and they know what exactly to expect and what exactly to do when they're planning to leave the country or coming in as well.
Exactly. And even if you evaluate the phase 1 and phase 2, we can see the difference. Even the passengers now, they're more aware of what's required to have while traveling. So phase by phase, we can see the improvement.
Absolutely. Mr. Saif, what is the duration between each phases, like phase 1 and now we're in phase 2? So to get to phase 3, how long do you think it's going to take roughly?
Well, it is not decided by time, but it depends on the evaluation. So there'll be an evaluation, and then based on the evaluation, they will decide on moving forward.
So what kind of response?
Of course, on this,
Yeah.
and on this, of course, it's like a committee, and then the reports will be submitted to the Supreme Committee, and then the decision comes from Supreme Committee.
Right, right. Mr. Saif, what kind of response are you expecting from passengers now that the airport is partially opened, and also that there is each destination has about flights to twice a week from the airport? What kind of inflow you are seeing right now compared to the previous years, obviously?
See, what I can see now, let's say, based on what I have explained earlier on how it goes, the plan of how we are going to operate, I think it is going to be really positive. A positive response from our passengers, especially, when they see things are going smoothly with the procedures, protection of all areas. So I think it's going to be positive.
Right, hopefully. You are, as you're working as a manager hub operations at Oman Air, Mr. Saif, and how does Oman Air schedule flights? How do you see what destinations are required? And up till now, like when you were scheduling the flights, what kind of destinations were in demand?
See, mainly what I can say, on this stage, it is limited. It was not open to operate on all destinations. So our team at Commercial, they did a very good job on that. And based on that, actually we are covering all regions from our network. So we do operate to Europe, Far East, Middle East and Africa. We do operate to GCC and Indian subcontinent as well. And what I have seen, it is doing well.
I'm sure, Mr. Saif, because everyone have been desperately waiting for the airport to resume its operation, and I'm sure the inflow might not be like the previous years, but I'm sure the occupancy that you're seeing in the flights would be almost full, if I'm not wrong.
Almost, almost. What we have, let's say, the destination what we have selected so far, all the flights are moving full, and also, people were waiting for this chance. Before this phase, all passengers who come, let's say the residents coming back to Oman, they used to require permission before coming.
Right.
So now it's like open, and many are coming back, and also some passengers were stranded here. They are moving also.
Right. So you're basically saying like now the rules have actually relaxed a bit for people to move in and move out without any restrictions, as long as they are coronavirus negative and their PCR tests and all the documents are in order.
Absolutely, and that is, let's say, it is for coming to Oman, it is for Omanis and residents, and for the GCC citizens as well.
Right. So GCC citizens are free to travel right now in the Sultanate.
Coming to Oman, yes.
Right. Mr. Saif, talking about the travel, we have been getting a lot of questions about people asking what exactly should they be doing when they're traveling to the Sultanate, what exactly the documents that they should be required. And we just saw Civil Aviation Authority mention that they need to get a COVID-19 negative test report. And they also need to go through the PCR, which the facilities that is available at Muscat International Airport for the cost of 25 Omani riyals with a bracelet.
Yeah, that is correct. So what I'll say on that, all passengers, Omanis and non-Omanis who comes to Oman now, the pre-PCR is not required because it will be done on arrival.
All right.
Yeah.
So people who are actually getting confused about that, if they get PCR beforehand when traveling to the Sultanate, because a lot of other countries, they require like 76 hours or 48 hours pre-PCR test done. That is not acceptable.
No, exactly. For Oman, even if you have a pre-PCR, which done at your country, but if you're coming to Oman, you have to go for a PCR, which will be done on arrival.
Right. Mr. Saif, one more ambiguity is that, for example, the residents and citizens who are coming back to the Sultanate and their test is negative, would they still be going to adhere to the 14-day quarantine? How is the situation for people who are tested negative for coronavirus coming to the Sultanate?
Yeah, see, based on the inspection from Ministry of Health and working together with Oman Airport, that all passengers will go through the PCR, and yes, quarantine is must.
So despite getting a negative result, the person has to go under 14-day quarantine.
Exactly. If it is negative, they go for quarantine, 14 days, home quarantine.
Right.
And then if it is positive result, Ministry of Health will communicate with the passengers, and of course they have their procedures on that.
Okay, perfect. Because, you know, a lot of people, a lot of viewers right now too, since we are live, they're asking about the quarantine situation because they are still not sure that if they are tested negative when coming to the Sultanate, do they still need to undergo the 14-day quarantine? And now, Mr. Safi, have just made it clear that even despite the results being negative, a person has to undergo the 14-day quarantine. Also, Mr.
Exactly.
Saif, I think the reason the 14-day quarantine has been put in place because Ministry of Health, one of the conferences, they mentioned that the coronavirus symptoms are developed within the 14 days. So initially the test could be negative, but maybe within a few days you can actually have the symptoms and you can develop the virus within the 14 days.
Exactly, what you are saying is correct, because the passenger or the patient can carry the virus, but it will not show in the test. And then maybe it will be after 2 or 3 days. So based on that, they have put the condition of quarantine 14 days to positive and negative as well.
Right. One last question, Mr. Saif, that we have been getting every day, believe it or not. It's when is the visit visa going to open? Do you have any idea when people can actually have visit visas?
Really, to tell you the truth, it is still not decided yet. And as I mentioned earlier, I think it depends on the result of this phase, what we are doing now. Based on that, I think, of course, gradually things will be better, but still, it is not decided yet.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saif, for answering to all the questions that we had your way. It was an absolute honor to have you on our show today.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Now, continuing more with our local news. We at TTV got to talk exclusively to the official spokesperson of Pakistan International Airline, and they actually briefed us that the flights, documents required when traveling to the Sultanate and more, what is required when you're coming from Pakistan to the Sultanate. Talking about the response among Pakistani community based in Oman after the partial opening of the airport, the spokesperson of PIA said that the response has been extremely positive as their flights are already packed. Ever since coronavirus and with the travel restrictions in place, people had been waiting for the flight operations to resume. Hence, it was good news for everyone when flights were announced. He continued saying that we have started with 9 weekly with 8 flights to Muscat from Lahore, Islamabad, Sialkot, Multan and Peshawar, while 1 to Salalah operating from Lahore. We are evaluating connecting Karachi to Muscat too, and hopefully that will be announced soon. He said that they are hoping to gradually increase the number of frequencies between the Sultanate and Pakistan. In terms of fares, the spokesperson informed that they are extremely attractive and start from just 61.6 Omani Riyals one way and 129.4 Omani Riyals as round trip. Talking about the documents people need to carry when departing on arriving in the Sultanate, he said, and as Mr. Saif also mentioned earlier, that the passengers traveling from Oman must hold PCR negative test result. PCR tests should be done with 96 hours before travel date. All passengers need to download and install Park Pass app on their smartphones. Passengers who do not have smartphones should upload details on their website, which is passtrack.nitb.gov.pk/login, and take a printout. Now, for passengers traveling from Pakistan to Oman, PCR test will be carried out on arrival at Muscat and Salalah Airport against 25 Omani Riyals. Valid health insurance of COVID-19 coverage for 1 month, registration on the Tarassut app plus and the H Musharraf app, as well as 14 days quarantine. So basically, people who are traveling from Oman to Pakistan, they need to get their PCR test done within 96 hours before traveling to Pakistan, and they need to carry it with them before departing Pakistan. While for people coming from Pakistan to Oman, does not need to carry any PCR test, as Mr. Saif mentioned as well. The PCR test will be carried at the Muscat International Airport with the cost of 25 Omani Riyals. Moving on, the Ministry of Health, Oman Airports and Supply International Company have recently signed an agreement to provide PCR tests at the border entry points for the travelers entering the Sultanate. The agreement was signed by the Ministry of Health Under Secretary for Administrative, Financial and Planning Affairs, CEO of Oman Airports and the CEO of Supply International Company. The signing was done in the presence of CEO of Civil Aviation Authority, along with a number of officials from the Ministry of Health, Civil Aviation Authority, Royal Oman Police, Oman Airports and Supply International Company. Also, Ministry of Health has signed a contract with Medical Mushrif Company in order to register the travelers entering the Sultanate on Tarassut Plus, as well as to provide digital bracelets to the travelers. A medical lab has been provided at the Muscat International Airport to accelerate extract the PCR results. The lab is connected with Tarassut Plus application in order to follow up the travelers through the Health Mushrif service responsible for tracking the person's movement while being quarantined, as well as medical scout that is responsible for communication with the quarantined person by the artificial intelligence. Another lab will also be provided at the Salalah International Airport. About 77% of all confirmed cases, COVID-19 cases in the Sultanate, are from the 3 governorates of Muscat, North Batina and South Batina, according to government data. Figures made available on the Tarassut Plus coronavirus monitoring app launched by the country's Ministry of Health show that of the 101,270 confirmed cases of the disease in the country, 48,990 are in Muscat, corresponding to 48.3% of all reported infections. In North Batina, 17,620, which is about 17.3%, people have so far been infected by the disease, a number that is lower in South Batina, which has recorded 11,262 infections, or 11.11% of all reported cases in the country. Together, these 3 governorates account for 76.7% of all reported infections of COVID-19 in Oman. The 3 also have recovery rates similar to the above. It's time for a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we have more updates coming your way from our international desk.
Oman's largest online supermarket now has no minimum order limit. From grocery to household items, Rafiq has everything that you want. Enjoy worry-free shopping with over 8,000 products to choose from and get it delivered straight to your doorstep. Rafiq, you order, we deliver.
Welcome back to TTV. You're watching Midday Update. And now from our international desk. Saudi Arabia resumed on Sunday the Umrah pilgrimage in Makkah amid strict anti-coronavirus restrictions after a hiatus of more than 6 months. The first group of pilgrims arrived and performed Umrah at Makkah's Grand Mosque early on Sunday under precautions to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus, the General Presidency for the Affairs of the Grand Mosque and the Prophet's Mosque tweeted. The photos uploaded by the presidency showed pilgrims circumambulating the Kaaba while wearing face masks. since Saudi Arabia launched an application process on September 27th for those who wish to perform Umrah. 108,041 permits had been issued for pilgrims by October 1st, according to the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah. Umrah is a pilgrimage to Makkah and can be performed year-round. Saudi Arabia announced earlier that it would gradually resume Umrah pilgrimage in stages starting from October 4th. To contain the spread of coronavirus, Saudi Arabia suspended the entry of foreign pilgrims seeking to perform Umrah in Makkah or visiting the Prophet's Mosque in Medina on February 27th. On March 4th, the kingdom also suspended Umrah pilgrimage for its own citizens and residents. Saudi Arabia reported 390 new cases of the novel coronavirus in the past 24 hours, raising the total number in the country to 336,387, the Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia announced on Sunday. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was warned on Sunday that areas in Britain under local coronavirus restrictions have reached a tipping point. The warning came as the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, was speaking on Sky's Sophie Ridge on Sunday programme. The Mayor said that the British government is really in danger of losing the public in the north if it continues to roll out restrictions without additional support. Burnham said that people need a bit of a reset so people can clearly understand what has been asked. The former Labour, Britain's main opposition party minister, said that compliance with lockdown rules in Greater Manchester is pretty high, but also said that I have certainly felt this week that we have reached a tipping point with all of this. Johnson said he's working flat out to make Christmas as normal as possible, but he warned of a tough winter ahead in the battle against coronavirus. He said there will be bumpy months ahead, though he hopes the situation will be radically different by spring. The latest figures showed Sunday that Manchester's rate at 335.9 cases per 100,000, one of the worst in the country. The national average is 65.4 cases per 100,000. France has broken its national single-day record for new coronavirus cases in the country after the country's public health agency recorded 16,972 positive cases over the past 24 hours. According to the agency's daily statistical update, the latest rise is a significant jump from the 12,148 new positive tests reported on Friday. France's coronavirus tally now stands at 606,625. 49 more people have died over the past 24 hours due to complications from the infection, raising the country's COVID-19 death toll to 32,198, the agency said. The previous record of 16,096 new cases on a single day was on September 24th. Tougher social distancing measures have been introduced in several French cities over recent weeks, including Marseille and Lyon, in an attempt to curb the country's second wave of coronavirus. It's time once again for a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we have more interesting stories to share from our sports desk.
Oman's largest online supermarket now has no minimum order limit. From grocery to household items, Rafiq has everything that you want. Enjoy worry-free shopping with over 8,000 products to choose from and get it delivered straight to your doorstep. Rafiq, you order, we deliver.
Welcome back to TTV. You're watching Midday Update. And now from our news desk. Chennai Super Kings, known as CSK, put an end to their poor run after registering a massive 10-wicket win against Kings 11 Punjab in Dubai on October 4th. CSK relished a much-needed victory after 3 defeats in a row, overhauling a 179-run target with remarkable ease. Shane Watson, who scored 83 and was clearly not out, and Faf du Plessis, who also scored 87 and remained not out during the match, exhibited an exemplary show as the duo remained unbeaten and chased down the target with 14 balls to spare. Watson hammered 11 boundaries and 3 sixes, while du Plessis settled with as many fours. The victory took Chennai Super Kings to 7th position on the points table. Jose Mourinho humiliated his former club Manchester United as Tottenham swept to a stunning 6-1 win at Old Trafford, while Arsenal moved into the Premier League's top four with a 2-1 victory against Sheffield United on Sunday. Tottenham boss Mourinho was sacked by United in 2018 after a turbulent reign, but it was his successor Ole Gunnar who was left red-faced after a symbolic display from the hosts. Despite taking the lead through Bruno Fernandes' second-minute penalty, United collapsed as they conceded 4 goals in the first half of a league match for the first time since 1957. In addition to that, Arsenal have taken 9 points from their opening 4 games as they look to return to Champions League football for the first time in 5 years next season. These were the top updates from our local, international and sports news your way today. But stay tuned as we'll be back again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Keep watching TTV.
You've just heard the live feed from the TTV studios on TFM 95.4. Let's talk.